Today I'm going to be talking about what I learned at the Kabbalah Center. It's called Kabbalah 5. It's a course in a series that they have. There are many good Kabbalah classes on all different topics, astrology and many other things. And they have a series to learn just the foundation of Kabbalah and grow in a pathway. And they go through them online all the way through. And so they've had... During the pandemic, they had them on the internet especially. So the teacher was Eitan Yardeni, and this is one of their classes from Kabbalah 5. So all learning is, these are my notes from my understanding and what I learned from it. So in no way does it represent actually their words. Probably it was said better how they said it. So all learning is remembering, reawakening, and we got to focus on the gratitude for all of the stuff. So I wrote a few things down right away at the moment: home, food, art, yoga or embodiment, meditation, focus, like that's what I kind of meant. A beautiful mind, a beautiful body, ability to feel pain and pleasure. I wrote the sphere to Omer, which is like a refinement of traits and offerings. My parents, the ability to transform energy and memories, and my discipline, discernment, and also a friend of mine called Michael at the time, who was a partner. And the essence of a spiritual vessel is when an emanated being receives abundance. For its vitality from the emanator, it must have the desire, the craving to receive its abundance from him. So the only reason I feel joy or love, relief, peace, or freedom is a strong desire or craving to receive fulfillment. So it could be that I want to fulfill my creativity, my light, my expression. And it's different between people is because of how much. So the idea is even inanimates, like ions are hunting, even vegetation, they're seeking similar others, water, sunlight, conducive environment. So the amount of desire and craving is the entirety of matter in the emanated being, meaning that whatever is in the emanated being besides this matter is not related to its mental aspects, but to the aspect of its abundance that it receives from the emanator. So some of these are actually quotes I'm reading from, I believe it's Rav Berg, and he was learning from Rav Ashlag, and that's who founded this grouping. And so it's learning from the Zohar, really. So children, genius, credit, synchronicities, ideas, nature, wisdom, etc. Anything that people kind of feel are good patterns come from the Creator. We each want whatever we want. We are shells that fill up with what actually isn't ours, and then we release, right? So we can't hold too much. We can't even think that we own it. So anything beyond our desire is an extension of the light. Everything is given to us, and often we have to lose something or almost lose it. It's better sometimes, right, to realize how safe and protected and healthy and blessed we or I am, versus taking things for granted and also thinking that it is to my credit. And I get to identify as the void filled by God, the light meeting the vessel, is the ultimate satisfying of the desire. So that touching, that place that wants. No coercion happens in spirituality. And that's something to pay attention to. No coercion happens in spirituality. So if the light meets the vessel is the ultimate satisfying of the desire, and we get to identify as the void that's filled by God, and that everything outside of us comes through us, and we're so protected, and it's to our credit that we're not, that we're not taking things for granted. So we have to then consciously be grateful and awake to the light. So it's not like we're forced to be grateful. We're consciously doing it. And there's the miracle, which is more enlightenment than now. So when the light hits the vessel, so seeing that we're an empty bottle that can be emptied in a second is a humility that we hope to be better about, not taking our time or attention. When I say our, I mean my own and others' time, attention for granted, and we're going to enjoy the knowledge and delight and the wisdom of the gifts of other people's mouthpieces, their gaze, their ears. And we might forget to take peace and quiet as the ultimate gift, to be doing writing, or for me, these are practices: writing, editing, stuff, not really editing, like reading, sharing art, journaling, even everything else that I love or calms me or excites me or grounds me. And it's important to know what that is, each one individually. Alone also. so that the pleasure and the grace come because we could be unable or dealing with obstacles or tragedy instead. So just the action of doing it is the healing. Just the action of making time for things like art and reading and writing. And when I said editing, what I meant was like coming back to it. It's called practicing. You make it and then you slightly adjust it and you come back to it, and you don't let it have to be exactly what your first vision was. That could be a remnant from the past. So, I'm kind of adding that now as a commentary, but that's not what I was writing over here. So I'll continue that I'm able to be the one to bring people to more joy and gratitude and inspiration and creativity is the biggest gift of all. In other words, we don't have to provide that much except connect people to their own creativity and gratitude and inspiration and joy. That they don't have to be coerced, that they actually enjoy it, that they get pleasure, right? Because, the desire, the amount of desire emanating that's coming through us, that we are as the essence of a spiritual vessel, and all the things we might want that aren't really ours, but that we want, and we can practice feeling grateful for things, writing gratitude lists and so on. We have at the same time an adversary or a Satan personally, individually, which causes as a job for us to forget. And that's like when the mundane becomes special, and that's the revelation. That there's a quote here that after all, the extension of the supernal light from the emanator is certainly without limit or measure. Rather, it's the emanated being itself that limits the abundance, since it receives neither more or less than the measure of its craving and desire to receive, which is the standard that applies to spirituality. And before I go through some steps, saying I'm able to be the one means that the one that could do it means in any situation. So in every situation, we have something that might be trying to catch up with us to make us forget. So we stay focused as a proactive way. So we satisfy the light, we satisfy the desire when the light touches it. So when the information, even we acknowledge our desire is already information touching it. There's a relaxing that happens when we acknowledge a wanting. And then when we also take time alone to feel that we have other wants besides for just a main craving, for example. I'm adding here because the mundane can become special, is that we forgot that even all the little activities, the in-betweens on the ways of things, it's not just hitting this, fixing it, hitting it like that. So step one is to crave and accept and desire the blessings I do have now and realize they can disappear, causing renewed gratitude and satisfaction. And as a reminder, this is like I made a couple commentaries here, but mainly this is from the class that I was learning in the Kabbalah Center under Eitan Yardeni teaching. Step two is light can't give me more or less than what I can take, what I can want. You can really connect to the want that you have. So step three is expanding the desire, not a survivalist or urgent, like I said, a quick fix or hitting the spot kind of but from an empowered, stable place. And step four is the elevated desires can manifest because I got through a period which we call the purification period, where we're no longer reacting but choosing and aligning with all greater good. So learning how to yield, kind of humbling the desire in that way. And then also the strengthening period, which is no longer overthinking but surrendering to the guidance and the balance. Like people are now going to tell us how to get our desires. Once we give up on them, then we learn, or they seem unpleasant, like we get a sense of purifying where we no longer think we're stuck in the satisfaction of the desire. We remember that we already know what we need to know, and it's like a purity that now when we go, we're just aligning with ourselves. It's not that there's a piece of us stuck outside of there and we're not going to be complete without a piece outside. We are revealing something. It's not that it's so in other words, there's purifying and strengthening, which is that the source of all we want is from the infinite. We admit our mistakes and ask for the light to light the way. So that's more like the purity. Like we say, okay, maybe I'm attached to this thing and I forgot that it's not really the right thing. Otherwise it would be happening, right? And then we learn how to do it the right way. So then we start to say thank you without clutching or clinging, and we continue forward with more blessings. We learn how to do it properly and then we get the fortification for those blessings. But first we have to give up on what we thought we wanted. It doesn't have to come that way. That's a very Kabbalistic thing. It's in a previous learning about Bina. I think I mentioned. It's possible I mentioned that, and if not, I'll mention it anyway, that we surrender it and then it trickles down. We give it up first. We say completely we're doing this for the sake of not even our own self, and then it comes down with a greater impact. So desires I'm working on, I wrote down. This is good to connect to during practices like this, is vitality, my confidence, livelihood, family, family making, health, and community and friendship. And since no coercion applies to it, and everything depends on the desire. Oh, I wondered why I wrote that there. It was a footnote. I didn't have enough room to write something. So I'm going to read that quote one more time. After all, the extension of the supernal light from the emanator is certainly without limit and measure. Rather, it's the emanated being itself that limits the abundance, since it receives neither more nor less than the measure of its craving and desire to receive, which is the standard that applies to spirituality, since no coercion applies to it, and everything depends on the desire.